look at some examples of SOP. For your information, there are three types of SOP. Number one is graphic operating procedure. Okay, then we have flowchart operating procedure, and we also have the hierarchical operating procedure. So we are going to look at some similarities between these three, and we are also going to look at the differences and which one is going to be tested in the second assessment, okay, assessment two. All right. So now I'm going to share the screen with all of you. Okay. We are having a bit problem in accessing the column. It happened since yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. So it is still not resolved until today. So I'm having problem to log into column as well. The materials that you are going to look at today, it is not in column yet, maybe. Okay. If it is in column, then it shouldn't be a problem. If it is not in column yet, let's wait for it to be stable, or maybe I can share with all of you the slides in the Google Classroom. Okay, so let's have a look at the weekly planner first. Right, so we are now in week 8, still in the topic on process and procedure. All right, so today we are going to have a look at the another two examples of or sample of or types of SOP, standard operating procedure, which is the flowchart SOP and hierarchical SOP. Okay, and of course, before the mid-semester break, we have discussed a bit on graphic standard operating procedure. Okay, whereby for each of the SOP, you are required to use imperatives. Okay, imperatives because we are giving instruction and we want the people reading the SOP to follow the instruction or the procedure. Okay, right. For the flowchart SOP, we are looking at the decision-making process whereby your answer, okay, based on the decision given there, okay, whether to say yes or no, and then what are the things that you are going to do next after you have completed that particular procedure. Okay, if your answer is yes, what you're supposed to do. If your answer is no, what are you supposed to do? Okay. Right, in the second meeting, we are supposed to look at the writing practice on standard operating procedure. But for the second meeting, I'm planning to have it in a synchronous mode, whereby I have given to you before your mid-semester break two exercises, okay, on standard operating procedure. One is on history of underground tunnel, and then another one is on lactating cow milk. Okay, I will give you another exercise which is on graphic operating procedure, and then in the second meeting this week, I'm planning to do it asynchronously, whereby I'm going to record myself, okay, discussing about the answers for each of the activity there. All right, the three activities: history of underground tunnel, lactating cow milk, and also the graphic operating procedure. And then you can compare the answers that I've shared with you, and then the answers that you have on your own. Okay, so that is the plan for the second meeting. And also at the same time, in the second meeting, I will give you the briefing about your second self-access activity. Okay, and this time around, we're going to use the FSET platform. Do not go to the platform yet because the questions are not ready yet there. Okay, so once I have given you the briefing in our second meeting, okay, I will share with you the video. Then you can watch it. Then after you have watched the briefing part on the self-access activity 2, then you have 1 week to complete the task. Okay, and please, once you have completed the task, do not forget to save the certificate generated from the online platform. Okay, allow your friend to join in first. Right. Okay. In week 9, we are going to look at the listening strategies, whereby our focus will be before, while, and after you have listened to the recording. Okay, before, while, and after you have listened to the recording. And also at the same time, we are going to do some practices on listening, especially on standard operating procedure, because next week, week 9, in the second meeting, you are going to sit for your first slot of assessment 2, okay, or assessment 2B. We're going to do it first, okay, next week in the second meeting, which is on Wednesday. All right, it's going to be conducted concurrently with other section, all right, at one time. So you are going to sit together, right? Listen to the recording. We will give you the link to the question paper, and then you can answer the questions straight away online. Okay, so we're going to start with assessment 2B first in the second meeting next week, okay, which is on Wednesday on the 5th of May, all right, 2021. I will give you the latest information about the time and the platform that we are going to use. Okay. And then after the test or the listening test ended, you need to stay for a while because I'm going to give you the briefing for your assessment 2A, okay, which is reading SOP, standard operating procedure, and it is going to be a pair work. So by now, you should start to decide who will be your partner for assessment 2A. Assessment 2B, it is individual. Assessment 2A, it is going to be a pair work. Okay, you choose your own partner, right? So for assessment 2A, it is going to be a 6 days period of assessment, whereby it is a take-home assessment. Right after the briefing, okay, I will give you the situation, all right? So you are going to work in pairs, all right? And then you are given 6 days to complete the task, okay? All right. For your information, since that it is a pair work, okay, let's say, assuming that there are 30 of you in the class, so we will have 15 pairs altogether, okay? And each pair will be having different situation. So none of the pair in the class will have the same situation. So your answers will be totally different from the other pair. Okay, so that is about week 9. Your assessment to A and also your assessment to B. Any questions so far, class? Class, question?
So far, no, sir.
All right.
No, sir. No, sir.
Sir, but can we get the slide as sir's presented because in Kalam everything was deleted.
In Kalam,
Yeah.
uh, you can access Kalam.
Because just now I saw, sir, most of the files are not in.
Okay, all right. No worries, no worries. Okay, you are referring to which slide? This slide, the slide today, or the slide previous?
The today's one, sir. Today's one.
Okay, no worries. Okay, I will share with you. All right.
Sure.
I think I'm going to put it in our Google Classroom so that it will be better. I'm afraid if I'm going to upload it again in Kalam, then it went missing. It went missing again. All right.
Sure, sure.
So I don't know what
Uh,
happened. Why do they do the maintenance in the middle of the semester? Yeah. Any other question?
sir, I have one question. So, we are doing the assessment 2B first, then until the 2A, right?
Yeah. Okay. So
Okay.
assessment to be first in the second meeting. I will give you the time. Most probably we are going to conduct it at night. It's going to be only half an hour, 8:30
Okay.
until 9, listening. And then you're going to stay for a while, whereby I'm going to give you the briefing for assessment 2A. Okay. And then
Okay.
starting from Wednesday next week, you have like 6 days to complete assessment 2A.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So hopefully it is clear for everyone. Right now, let's proceed to this thing. Okay. SOP general format. Let me make it bigger for you. All right. So we are going to have a look at the general format of standard operating procedure. So for your information, all right, if you're going to start working later on after this, okay, once you have completed your study, right? The company that you are working with may have their own template or standard or layout of the SOP. But basically, what we are concerning on, okay, what we are teaching you at this stage for UHL2422 are more on the contents. Okay, we are focusing on the contents. Okay, let's say for the what do you call it, the purpose of you having the SOP. So it is going to be like a standardized kind of information, though that the layout or the template that you are going to have later when you're going to start working, okay, may be different from the one that we shared, okay, today. All right. So how to write a technical SOP. Our focus again is going to be on technical SOP. If you still remember, for our mid-semester break, okay, there are two types of SOP. Number one is on administrative SOP, and another one is on technical SOP. So we are focusing only on technical SOP. Okay, right. So an organization will have its own format for SOP. Okay, so it may be different, right? No worries about that, right? And you can follow the following format as a guide to write your technical standard operating procedure. So basically, all of the information that we are sharing, we are going to share with you, okay, today, and also for this course, is actually to help you to focus on the contents, okay? Right. So if you are going to be asked, okay, later on when you're going to start working to create or prepare a SOP, so you will know what kind of contents that you need to include in the SOP, even though that the template or the guidelines will be different from the one that we are showing to you today. Okay. Right, number one, right, let's have a look at the reference number, the date, and the page number. So these three important things should appear in each page of the SOP. All right, and then where to put it? It is supposed to be put in a box and written at the top on the upper right hand corner of every page of the SOP. So we're going to have a look at the example of this. Right, what you can do is that you can take your right hand, look at the screen, okay, look at the top right hand corner, okay, upper right hand corner of the page. There is where you are supposed to have the box, and it consists the reference number, the date, and the page number there. Okay, and if it is more than one page, okay, if it is more than one pages for the SOP, you need to have the number or the page number arranged accordingly or written accordingly. And for your information, assessment 2A, all right, you are required to write or to transfer information from the situation into the template of the SOP, okay, from for 5 to 7 pages altogether, 5 to 7 pages. Okay, right. Let's have a look at each one of it. So the reference number is for filing and record purposes. Okay, so filing and record purposes. Because why? All right. In each company, you are going to have like different department. Okay, and then even though in the same department, there will be like certain groups working on different projects. So that is the reason why the reference number is very important, because when you look at the reference number, for example, you are dealing with project on mechanical. Okay, the other teams working on electrical kind of project. So let's say the reference number starts or begin with M, you know that M represent mechanical. If it is E, then it is electrical. Okay, for example, right? So it will be different depending on the project. Okay, depending on the project or the department in charge of the project, and also the organization. All right. So this is for filing and record purposes, and that is the reason why the reference number is going to be different. Okay. Right. So please bear in your mind for assessment 2A, if the situation stated the reference number, it is there, then you have to write it back in the boxes. Okay. If it is not stated there, then you can create your own reference number. Okay, if it is in the situation, you just copy and put it in the box. If it is not there, then you have to create your own reference number. Okay, next, you are required to put in the date. So the date refers to the date the SOP is written. So let's say if I ask you to do the SOP today, all right, there's no SOP at this moment, so I want you to write the SOP today. So the date is going to be on the 26th April 2021. Okay, but somehow there are certain changes. Okay, for example, if there are certain changes or revisions, okay, being made to the SOP, so the date written should follow the date the information is revised. Okay, let's say you have written the SOP today, 26 April 2021, and you use this particular machine. Okay, the company is using this particular machine. Somehow next year, the same date, okay, the company change or buy a new machine, and the procedures are going to be shorter. Okay, maybe before this there are 10 procedures, and then by buying the machine, you can cut the procedures into half. So next year, the procedures, there are only 5 procedures instead of 10. So you have to do the revision, you have to do the changes, and then once you have done that, you have to write or to state the date according to the date that you change the information. Okay, so the same goes for assessment to A, right? If it is stated that the original date, then you have to write it, okay, and then the revised date should also be stated there if it is given in the situation. If it is not given, then you can just write it as normal or as usual, okay, just the date, right? Next, the page number, okay, of the SOP should follow accordingly, especially if the SOP consists of more than one page. Okay, so how to write it? Let's have a look at the next slide. Okay, so upper right hand corner of your screen, okay, upper right hand corner of your screen. All right, the same goes in the template upper right hand corner. Okay, you are going to have the box. Okay, in the box should consist of the reference number, the date, and the page number. All these three things should be put in the box at the upper right hand corner of the SOP. Okay, so you are going to have the SOP here. Okay, and then the reference number or the procedure. Okay, but basically or normally we use the reference number. Okay, so again, if it is given in the situation, then you can just copy and use it. If it is not given for assessment to A, you can create your own reference number, no problem. Okay, right, next, okay, you have the date. As you can see over here, all right, there are two dates given. One is the original effective date, okay, which is on the 20th June 2011, and then the second date is on the revised effective date 20th June 2012. Okay, so maybe on the 2011, all right, the person in charge prepared the SOP, and somehow the same date next year, the following year, there are some changes being made to the procedures. So you are going to put the writing of the date like this. Okay, all right. If there are no changes at all, if in the situation it is not stated that there are changes, then you can just remain as 20th June 2011. Okay, and of course, this is the most common mistakes made by your seniors, okay, for the assessment when it comes to the page number. Why? Because, okay, let's say there are 5 to 7 pages of assessment, okay, or the SOP. So you are supposed to write it according to the page number. Okay, so let's say here you have altogether 5 pages, okay, of the SOP. So you're going to write it, okay, page 1 of 5. Right, and the second page is going to be page 2 of 5 up until page 5 of 5. Okay, so you are supposed to write it like this. Do not forget this box should appear in each page, all right? And the only information that you need to change from each page is on the page number. Okay, let's say there are 5 pages, so page 1 of 5, and then when you go to the next page, page 2 of 5, and the rest until page 5 of 5. And this is a common mistake made by your seniors, okay, because they forgot to change the date, the page number, right? So this is on the reference number, the date, and also the page number. All right, so the title of the SOP, okay, so it should be written at the top center of the page, where it is going to be here. All right, in the middle of the page, top center of the page. And please include the phrase standard operating procedures, okay, and it should precede the title of the procedures, meaning that it should appear before the procedure itself. Okay, so let's have a look at the examples given here. Example number 1. What is the procedure? The procedure is transferring liquid chemicals. That is the procedure. Okay, and please do not forget to include standard operating procedures. And when you are going to write it, use the linking word of. Okay, I'm going to show you some example after this, and there are some mistakes that you need to change, okay, when you're going to prepare for the assessment 2A. Okay, right. And then example number 2, standard operating procedure. It should come earlier, and then the linking word is off. And then what is the procedure? Assembling the computer hardware. So the same goes for the third example, standard operating procedures of repairing faulty electrical circuit. Okay, so that will be the procedure, repairing faulty electrical circuit, and you need to have the phrases, standard operating procedures in the beginning of it. The linking word should be the word off. Okay, and then the title should be clear that anyone who reads it will immediately understand what the procedures are likely to be. Okay, my suggestion for assessment 2A, you make it like this. Okay, you bold it, all right, and then you make the wordings a bit bigger. Okay, the template will be given to you in Microsoft Word, then you can just edit it accordingly. Okay, so when people read or refer to the SOP, by looking at the title, they will know, okay, that the procedure, the SOP, here is only for transferring liquid chemicals. I am looking for repairing faulty electrical circuit, so this is not related. Then I'm going to look for the SOP on repairing faulty electrical circuit. So we're not going to do the activities here. So let's skip it. All right, next you will be asked to fill in the information on department or unit. Okay, so the unit or department in which the SOP is responsible needs to be identified. Okay, because remember, even though that you are working in the same department, the SOP might be different according to the projects, for instance. Okay, right. The focus of the procedures needs to be stated, which is basically the title of the SOP, but it is more specific. Okay, example given here, this SOP has been written for the research and development laboratories transfer of the hydrofluoric acid. So what is the procedure? Transfer of the hydrofluoric acid. Okay, so what is the department here? The Department of the Research and Development Laboratories. Okay, all right. So this is how you're supposed to write for department or unit. Okay, next is on the purpose. So there must be a purpose of you preparing the SOP. All right. So there are 3 parts to the purpose of the SOP. So this is number 1. Okay, so this is number 1. This is number 2. This is number 3. Okay, all right. So number 1, the aim or the function of the SOP. Number 2, the specific audience. And then number 3, the regulatory standards or the safety measure. Okay, so in this context, for the purpose, must have is only on number 1. Okay, so only number 1. This is a must. You must have it. Compulsory. Okay, the other 2, optional. All right, so you need to make sure that in the purpose box or the component, you need to state the aim of you giving the SOP or preparing the SOP. Okay, example given here. The purpose of this SOP is to provide instructions for the safe use of 50% sulfuric acid. That is the purpose, the aim of it. Okay, all right. Who is your specific audience? The worker and also the environment. Okay, that is meant for the worker actually. And then what are the regulatory standards to prevent spills, harmful vapors, and injury? Okay, but again, as it is highlighted earlier, you need to make sure that you have at least the aim of the SOP. Okay, at least the aim of the SOP. All right, okay. Next, okay, the second example, this SOP, okay, tells how to safely use 50% acetone, okay, to prevent injury from vapors or environmental damage. Okay, so look at the highlighted words here, okay, whereby it focuses on the purpose of the SOP. And the last one, or the last example given here, this SOP explains how to prepare instructions for nurses coming onto the next shift. Okay, this is the audience, and the one in bold is the aim or the purpose of the SOP. Okay, all right. So next, we are going to have a look at the person who can perform the job. All right. So remember the aim or the reason why we have SOP or standard operating procedure is to make sure that this particular person or personnel can do the task. Okay. So over here for this component, you need to state who will perform the job or who has performed the job. Okay. Who will perform the job here, meaning that, okay, let's say, all right, there's no SOP at all in the beginning, and this is a new machine, and this is for this particular production or line of production. So you are going to prepare the SOP, and that particular person, maybe you or maybe other colleagues, okay, he or she or they will be performing the task. Okay, so this is totally new. The SOP is totally new. All right. Or for the second part of it, has performed the job. All right. This is actually referring to the people who have conducted the task. Okay. And then maybe later on they still need to redo the task, that they can refer to the SOP prepared earlier. Okay, all right. It can also be for people who work together on a job or anybody related with the task. Okay, initially the engineers, technicians, maintenance, or equipment personnel. Okay, let's say you are working on a project. Okay, in your team, there are engineers, they are technicians, and they are maintenance personnel. So all three kind of or group of people over here working with you in the project, okay, need to read the same SOP. So you can do that. All right. So for engineers, they can focus only on the engineering part. For technician, they can focus on the technical part, and the maintenance issue can be focused by the maintenance personnel. Okay, or personnel. All right. So next, people who supervise other people doing the job. Okay, let's say you are or you have been appointed as the supervisor. Okay, and then you want to make sure your subordinates, okay, they are able to perform the task by referring to the SOP. So you have the SOP and you check whether they follow the steps, okay, the procedures, and then if it is successful, then it shows that they have followed the SOP in a good manner. Okay, next, it is also meant for safety and health officer. Okay, for safety and health officer. So let's say safety and health officer pay a visit to the site, all right, and then they wanted to have a look at the SOP, and then they are going to double check, all right, or cross check whether the workers or the staff there, okay, are performing their tasks according to the SOP. Okay, because SOP, it is used to ease the task and also at the same time to ensure or to reduce the number or percentage of accidents to happen at the workplace. Okay, and lastly, technical writers. Okay, let's say if you're required to write the manual, then you can refer to the SOP. Okay, then we have the equipment or tools needed, right? So in the SOP, one of the important elements that will be stated is on the equipment or the tools needed. So number one, we are going to talk about the PPE, personal protective equipment. So PPE are the tools that the person to work on the job must wear in order to ensure that he is bodily protected. Okay, let's say if you're working at the construction site, all right, you need to wear the safety helmet. Okay, you need to wear the reflector jacket. Okay, the one in the green fluorescent, right, and then the reflectors, and maybe you are required to wear the safety boot. Okay, that will be your PPE, personal protective equipment. Okay, and then the PPE should be listed carefully by identifying the correct types. Okay, because different site will have like different PPE. So if you're working on corrosive chemical substances, so maybe your PPE is going to be different. Okay, if you're working in a chemical lab, okay, testing on pathogen, okay, testing on viruses, for example, your PPE will be different. Okay, all right. So next is on the tools. Okay, the tools here. All right, the tools referring or is referring to any equipment or tools, be it in liquid or solid form, which are needed in order to carry out the job. Okay, so let's say if you need to perform this task, okay, you need to have the drill machine. All right, so that will be the tools. Okay, and sometimes it is necessary to include the safety precautions when handling the tools. Okay, so you're going to have the list of tools, and then after that, you're going to put the safety precautions. So in order to use this drill machine, what are you supposed to do? So they can refer to the list of the tools, and at the same time, they can also refer to the safety precautions. Okay. And lastly, for equipment or tools needed, will be on the reference materials. Okay. So any sort of reading or reference materials that can be suggested or that has been referred to when the SOP was written. Okay. Let's say when you are preparing the SOP, you refer to manual A, for example. So in the reference materials, you are going to include the list of, let's say, manual or books or any platform that you are referring to when you are preparing the SOP. So that's all about the format of the SOP. Okay. Any questions so far, class? Class, do you have any question? Class, are you there? Okay. All right. No question. All right. So now let us have a look at the three examples, okay, of the SOP. Right. We are going to start with the flowchart SOP. Okay. Right. So let's have a look at this flowchart SOP. All right. You have the reference number here. Okay. And it should appear, remember, this box consisting of these three important information should appear in every page or in each page. So this is page number 1. Let's scroll down to page number 2. It is not there. So this is incorrect. Okay. So just to let you know, you need to have the box consisting of the reference number, the date, and the page number in each page. Do not forget about that. And the only information that you can change is on the page number. So let's say over here, there are 3 pages altogether for the SOP. So you're going to write it, okay, page number 1 of 3, okay, second page 2 of 3, then the third page 3 of 3. So please double check on this thing when you are preparing for your assessment 2A. Okay, so this is the title, standard operating procedure for testing the performance of a new car. So what is the procedure? Testing the performance of a new car. So do not forget standard operating procedure. And if you notice here, the linking word is the word for. Okay, but actually you are supposed to use the word of. Okay, so this is incorrect as well. So please change it to the word of. Okay, so department or unit, it is stated here. So this is for the quality control department. What is the purpose? To provide an effective procedure to check the efficiency and condition of new cars. So this is the purpose of the SOP. And who can perform this SOP? QC operators or officers. Okay, so the template is going to be like this for the assessment 2A, right? But when you are going to start working later on, it may be a bit different. Okay, next will be on the equipment or tools needed. Okay, PPE. So you have the word helmet, goggles, and gloves. Okay, careful the spelling. Google is Google. Goggle is goggle. Okay, tools. If it is not stated there in the situation given to you for assessment 2A, then you can just write it none. The same goes to others. If it is not stated there, then you can just put it as none. Okay, for reference materials, okay, over here, let's say this is maybe like a book or a manual. So this is the name of the author, the year it was published, and the name of the book maybe, and who is the publisher? Alfred Publishing House. So you have to follow the APA 7th edition when you are going to write for the reference materials. Okay, so in the situation given, right, let's say if it is stated where do you take the information from, reference material, then this is how you are supposed to write for the reference. Okay, all right. So let's scroll down a bit. Then we have the flow chart here. Okay, so flow chart here, it represents decision-making process. Okay, yes or no. And then it represents certain situation or level or stages. For example, the shape the cylindrical shape here represent the process, the beginning and the end. So it is the start and end, okay, as you can see over here. And then you have the rectangle here, that is for the process, okay, hit the engine for 5 minutes, okay, that is the process. And then it brings you to the next step, which is, are there any problematic sounds? So this is put in a diamond shape, okay, in the diamond shape. And this one is actually for decision making, okay. If there is any problematic sounds, if the answer is yes, then you move on to the next thing that you are supposed to do if there is any problematic sound. So for example, you fill in the report form and explain the problem, and then you send the car to workshop A. Okay, if the answer is no, then you can move to the next step, which is to drive the car at 80 kilometer per hour at a distance of 1 kilometer. Okay, if your answer is yes, there are two things that you need to do. Then it will bring you to the next action, which is to drive the car at 80 kilometer per hour at a distance of 1 kilometer. If before that, okay, your answer is no, then you can straight away go to this stage without going to this stage. Okay, this is about flowchart. Another important thing that you need to have in the template, in the SOP, is on these three things. Okay, you need to have the prepared by, reviewed by, and then approved by. Okay, so you are in charge of preparing the SOP. So you're going to have your signature over here, followed by your name, and then your designation or your position in the company. So you are a junior QC engineer, and then you are being asked to prepare the SOP. So this is what you are supposed to do. Okay, and then you need to ask your senior to check or to review your SOP. So this is the signature, followed by the name, and lastly the position or the designation, senior QC engineer. So after it has been checked, okay, someone need to approve it, normally among the management side, okay. So you need to have again the signature and then the name of the person and followed by the designation, okay, general manager. So this is for flowchart operating procedure. Okay, right over here we have the hierarchical operating procedure. So all the contents are the same. Okay, remember the reference number, the date, the page number, okay, follows according to the page that you are referring to, right? And if you notice over here, the second page, it doesn't have the box as well. So this is incorrect. Okay, this is wrong. So because this box, right, and also the content should appear in each of the page of the SOP, and then you just need to change the page number accordingly. Okay, so you have the information here, right? And as you can see, hierarchical operating procedure are actually according to the sequence. So this is the first procedure, the second procedure, okay, and then you have the third one, okay, and then you have the fourth one, the fifth until the end of it. So this is on hierarchical operating procedure. It follows the sequence, okay. And lastly, we have the graphic operating procedure, and this is how you are supposed to do it. For your information, assessment to A, from the situation, you need to transfer the information into this particular form, which is graphic operating procedure. Okay, so there are 4 stages. For example, here there are 4 stages: before alignment, equipment preparation, during alignment, and after alignment. And for each of the stages here, you have its own procedures. Okay, for example, before alignment, there are 2 procedures. Equipment preparation, there are 3 procedures. During alignment, there are 5 procedures. And lastly, for after alignment, there are 3 procedures. Okay, so what makes it different from the others is that, okay, for graphic operating procedure, you need to include for each of the component here. Okay, for example, before alignment, you need to include an illustration, an image, or a picture. Okay, it can be in the form of a real picture. It can be in the form of maybe like animation or animated features. Okay, it can also be in the form of cartoon or emojis. Okay. For example, here what we have is the second procedure: mark the laboratory's door with the notice sign. So this is a sign: laser alignment in progress. Do not enter. Eye protection required. So this is a notice that you put on the door, right, and it says something. Okay. So for assessment 2A, this is the kind of SOP that you have to create. Okay, and where to get the pictures? You can take it from the internet. You can take it like your own. Okay, for example, right, or you can create it on your own. So this is where you are going to put all of the images. So after the procedure, you're going to put the images or the illustration. Okay, so this is going to be the last type of SOP, which is the graphic operating procedure. So there are three types of it. Okay, we have the flowchart operating procedure, we have the hierarchical operating procedure, and we also have the graphic operating procedure. And you will be tested for assessment 2A on graphic operating procedure. Okay, all right. So any question, class?
No.
No question?
So the column review by we need to give full review.
Okay, all right. So look back at the situation given to you for assessment 2A later. Okay, so if it is stated in the situation, you are required to prepare the SOP. So your name should be there. Okay, and then the SOP should be reviewed by, let's say, John Lennon, for example. Okay, not Lennon Wealth. All right, Lennon, you're there. Okay, sorry, I need to borrow your name. So if the person in charge to review the SOP, the name is given there, then you need to use the name. Okay, the same goes for the approved by. But if it is not given in the situation for assessment 2A, then you can just create the name on your own. Okay,
Okay, sir.
all right. Okay, any other question before we end?
Sir,
Yeah.
for the assessment 2A, is pair works is 2 person in group or 3 person in group?
Pair is a pair. Okay.
Okay,
Two.
thank you, sir.
Okay. A pair is a two. All right. The group is more than two. All right. Any other question?
So
Yeah.
when we need to create our reference number by ourselves, is there any rule to follow, or we can create by any number we like?
Okay. All right. Previously, you are allowed to get some other information from other sources. Let's say the situation is like very general, but in order for you to produce the SOP, maybe you need to refer to other sources, maybe like manuals, okay, maybe like excerpt, okay, maybe posters, for example. Then, if you need to take the information from that particular information, right, you need to cite it, you need to put it in the reference list, all right, reference materials, and put it according to the APA 7th edition. Okay, that is how you're supposed to do it. Do I answer your question? Jai, am I answering your question?
That means we need to code it from other reference.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Somehow, okay, certain situation, right? In certain situation, the reference materials, okay, the reference material is given to you. So you can use that particular thing, but somehow at the same time, you need to find other sources to support your SOP for assessment 2A. So you need to use that particular thing as well, and then you cite it by writing the reference materials, the things in the reference materials.
Okay, okay.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Never mind. Maybe you don't have a question at this moment. All right. But if you still have a question after this, no worries. Okay. We have our WhatsApp group. You can just forward the question there, and then I will try my very best to respond to it as soon as possible. Okay. All right. So, going to stop the recording now.